Hey, Panthers. For those of you who do not know me, I am Coach Hale. I am the head coach of cross country team and an assistant coach for track and field in the spring and one of the English teachers at West Park High School. Thanks for coming to Athletics Night tonight um, and for having interest in our cross country team. I am really sorry that I am not there with you tonight. I am not feeling well, and with just our safety and health protocols, I needed to stay home tonight. But I know that many of you are probably anxious to get at least an overview of all of the things that are happening this year with cross country, especially since our season officially begins today. So my hope is to just kind of run through some of the nuts and bolts and then give you a couple of ways to communicate with me so that I can answer any specific questions that you might have as we go into what I think is going to be a really great season. So my name is Sonia Hale. Like I told you already, I'm an English teacher, and then I coach cross country in the fall and work with the distance athletes in the spring with track and field. In terms of valuing people and loving learning, I value people by fostering positive relationships and working with students to maximize their potential. That's the way I show them that I value them. And in terms of my love for learning, I try to remain open-minded. I seek help to improve so that as a coach and as a teacher, I am constantly getting better and working hard to support student staff. And I should probably add families on there too. They're such an integral part of what we do. In this quick video, I'm just going to introduce myself and get you some contact information. That's probably going to be essential, especially since I'm not there with you tonight. We'll do a quick overview of some of the logistical nuts and bolts. I probably won't get into everything, and that's probably not in anybody's best interest. But I definitely want to give you kind of a big picture idea of like, when are we practicing? What do meets look like? What are the kinds of things that you might do if you are a cross country athlete? And then I want to hone in on some of those next steps. It's really important that athletic clearances get finished so that athletes can get out and start practicing with the team. And then, of course, the question and answer session that would have happened at the end of our face-to-face meeting. I'm just going to have you email or call or text me if you have any specific questions that I can answer as we get started. Here is that contact information. I'm going to pause here just for a quick second while you maybe take note of my Google Voice number, 916-287-0507. That is a Google Voice, so it doesn't run through just my regular phone service, but I can get texts and phone calls and messages that way. Texts are probably the easiest way to get a quick answer if you have kind of an urgent need or question. But you can always use email as well. My email address is shale@rjuhsd.us. I have really loved coaching cross country. This is the first year that I've gotten to coach, and I've already felt really inspired and transformed even by being a coach. Being able to interact with the athletes last year really pushed me to be more purposeful as a teacher, as a coach, to build relationships with student athletes in a way that's very different than what happens in the classroom, and to just feel a better sense of what it is that I am doing out there every day when I show up to West Park High School. So for me, I teach and coach to help students set ambitious goals. And one really amazing thing about endurance running is that everyone gets better and everyone gets a lot better. And running is something that can continue to push you and change you and help you grow your whole life. I've been running for a long, long time, and I still set ambitious goals, and I still structure programs to help me achieve my goals and celebrate victories. And so as a runner and as a coach, that's what I hope to help athletes with as well. Especially that celebrating each victory, big and small, alongside athletes, because many of us know that distance running in particular can be pretty grueling. It's a lot of work. As a team and as an athletics program, our mission is to develop in students both the mental and physical strength to endure all kinds of challenges. I think that endurance running in particular really transcends beyond just what's happening on the course or on the track. But as we learn to endure pain, to push hard, and to control the thoughts in our minds that are always telling us to quit, we build those same kinds of skills for our work lives, our interpersonal challenges, our academic challenges. And so that's an important part of what we're learning to do as West Park cross country athletes too. And to do all of this, to accomplish our mission, I first want to foster really supportive and important relationships between me and athletes, and then also between athletes themselves. Those strong friendships can really help athletes to grow and to feel an important sense of belonging and to make the often grueling runs just way more fun. To use science-based training programming. As I learn more and as we get better and as I get to know athletes better, our training approaches and practices adjust and change too. I'm constantly reading and learning and going to courses and working with other coaches in the area to make sure that our programming really helps athletes grow, get stronger and faster, and be really safe. And then, of course, by personalizing programs to maximize individual and team potential. If you have athletes that are already running with us, they'll be able to tell you that that nobody's ever really doing the same thing. Everybody's always doing something that's really customized to what they need as an individual athlete. As an athlete, As an athlete, you can expect to have fun. We try to infuse all of our toughest workouts with some fun or some play or some celebration. I think that that's integral to being able to endure all of the challenging workouts that we do as cross-country athletes. You can expect to work really hard. We're a 5 to 6 day a week sport. And our workouts are hard. We're logging lots of miles. We're doing distance work, speed work, hill work, and strength and conditioning work to be the best athletes we can. And then you can expect it to be a leader. Student athletes at West Park High School are held to the highest standards. And so we will work to be leaders in our community, leaders at school, and leaders on our team. The expectation is that we work to be positive role models in all of the communities that we participate in. I'm going to transition to some logistics. The first thing I want to say is that our season officially started today. I know we've been doing some summer running and lots of athletes have come out and participated in that. It's been really great to meet some of our new athletes and get to hang out with some of our returning runners. And it ends about the beginning of November. The first weekend in November is subsections, and then it goes from there. So you can expect that we are wrapping up sometime in November. Our practices are held Tuesday through Saturday. We don't have practice on Sundays, and we don't have practice on Mondays. We'll look at the more specific schedule in just a second. To be prepared, getting cleared as an athlete is really step one. Through home campus is where you'll kind of upload all of your health clearance forms, parent signatures. That's a way that I get contact information for all of our families too. So if you have not yet started that clearance process, that is going to be step one. I'll kind of walk you through that a little bit. You also need to have and maintain a 2.0 grade point average in order to compete. If for some reason you are not eligible academically, you can still practice with the team. You just won't compete until you get yourself eligible again. That happens at all of those progress grades. So those are some things to be thinking about as you are getting yourselves situated. The more nuts and boltsy stuff of the schedule really focuses in on the first 6 weeks. So as you all know, in Sacramento, we deal with some pretty extreme heat. And at the end of summer, we deal with a lot of smoke. Fires are pretty common in our area. And so for the first 6 weeks, as temperatures are really high, and as there's a potential for poor air quality, we will have 2 practices a week that are before school. As the temperatures begin to drop and it starts to cool off to a safer temperature in the afternoons, all of our weekday practices will move to after school at 3 o'clock. But it's good to know that for these first 6 weeks, this is basically what our schedule will look like for practices. I also want to make a note that there is no practice on the first day of school, which is a day we will normally meet for practices on Wednesdays. But we have a lot going on that first day, and I think it's going to be a little bit of overload for many of our students. And so I want to make sure that they can just have that day and get themselves home, and be able to celebrate with all of you that they're back to school and things are starting to return to maybe not normal, but at least getting to interact with each other and have a little bit more normalcy. So typically our weeks, we will not have practice Sundays or Mondays. On Mondays, I'll ask athletes to do some active recovery, either an easy run or ride the bike, swim, walk, do some yoga, but to at least take 20 to 30 minutes and get some movement in. On Sundays, I'm going to ask athletes to really rest. So to take it easy that day, to not do any workouts. Walking and playing and those sorts of things are fine, but no practice and no hard lifting. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we will meet after school at the track at West Park High School. Wednesdays and Fridays, we'll meet before school at 6:15 a.m. at the track. And then on Saturdays, we'll meet at 8 a.m. at Cabot Middle School in Granite Bay, unless we have a scheduled event. Right now, we have scheduled events on many Saturdays, but I tried to plan it where it's about every other as we move through the middle of the season. And so we'll have practices at Cabot on the weeks that we do not have a meet scheduled. Some of our goals for this year as a team, one, to launch a cross-country program for really long-term sustained excellence. We'll have freshmen, sophomores, and juniors this year, so we'll have the first opportunity to be able to run some varsity athletes. But even this first year, I'm really thinking about building some momentum, recruiting lots of students, recruiting parents that are interested in volunteering and participating, and making sure that the cross-country program is a really positive experience for athletes for 4 years, not just for one season. And so as a growing and building program, I really want for us to staff up and create some rituals and routines this year that might last forever. Build a high-level coaching staff and community volunteer support system. We do have an assistant coach who is working through the clearance process right now. I'm looking forward to being able to introduce him to the team. And then to, of course, welcome and work with any student on campus that wants to be a part of our program. Cross country is a no-cut sport, so if you want to run with us, you can come out and run with us as long as you finish your clearance, and then you can come out and run with us, even if it's as part of conditioning for another sport that you play, even if you may not be competing with us or competing for us. We still want you out there running with us. And then, of course, I want to make sure that all student athletes in our program experience lots of success and fun. That should probably say fun on there too. In terms of some next steps, the first thing that you'll want to do if you haven't done this yet, and it's worth checking if you haven't interacted with me yet about whether or not your athlete is cleared, you'll want to complete the clearance request. The easiest way, I think, to do this, and I'm just going to walk through it really quickly, so sorry to those of you who already know what all of this is. In the West Park High School homepage, under athletics, what a pretty school. We have our athletics sign-up information here, and our Panther athletes right here. We have this athlete clearance tab. So this is the website that you would go to do the actual clearance process. So if you clicked on this link, it would take you here and you'd go to California and complete the steps. Here are instructions for what it's actually going to ask for you to do. So that's your best resource when beginning that clearance. If you have any questions, of course, please just like call, email, or send me a text. I'm happy to help walk you through it. There is also a Google Classroom. Most of our athletes are already attached to our Google Classroom. That's what I've been using for like announcements, any changes of plan, things for practice times and locations, forms and those sorts of things that we need to keep track of. So if your athlete has not yet joined Google Classroom, I'm actually just going to have you like email me an introduction, and then I can send an invitation to you to get everybody on there. If you don't yet have the gear that you'll need for cross country, you don't need a ton of stuff. You do need some athletic clothes, shorts or pants are fine, tank tops, t-shirts, as long as you're comfortable, and then some good running shoes. So if you have not purchased new running shoes in 5 years or so, it's probably worth getting in and getting some shoes that are going to fit really well and really support your feet. You'll need a water bottle when you come to practice. We do have water fountains that work, but we often leave campus. And so you'll want to bring water with you. It's hot and hydration is really important. And then I always ask that students bring a snack and or a sports drink to have afterwards. If we can replenish some of our nutrients right after a workout, then the recovery process gets started faster and you're more ready next time. The last thing that I want to really tell you about is you can view our meet schedule at athletic.net. I'll get all student athletes kind of signed up for this in our first actual practices. But if you want to get kind of a jump on what our season really looks like, you can go to our athletic.net page. You can just search for us through West Park High School and then cross country, and you can actually see our meet schedule. And that will be updated regularly if we add additional things or if anything changes throughout the season. Finally, I'm sure you all have lots and lots of questions, either specific questions about your athlete, or you want some more detailed information about practices, or want to talk more about shoes, or just want to introduce yourself if there are things that I should know about your athlete before we actually get started with practices. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I check my email every day, multiple times a day. And especially as we get into school, I will be on my email really regularly. I also check that Google Voice number for text or phone calls at 916-287-0507. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you and your student athletes. I'm having a really, really great season this year. So thanks again for attending. Thanks for watching all the way through this video. And I know that we didn't actually get an opportunity to meet each other face-to-face today, but I hope that we'll get an opportunity to interact in person really, really soon.